Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, to start our pre-meeting, we welcome everyone to our May 24th meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take it to the purpose.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, May the 24th. We have approval of minutes from May 10th.
Good.
Public hearing today is a public hearing to declare the structures at 2620 Howes Mill Road, 801 and a half Kentucky Street, public nuisances and ordering them demolished. Public hearing to rezone property located at 62, 88, 100, and 116 Hillcrest Road from R1 and LB2 to B2.
Don't hear anything at the planning commission on this, I haven't heard anything.
No. No, there wasn't anything there. I can go back, this was not on, this way I can go back and see what was there.
They're just making properties right now, but I haven't heard anything from anybody one way or the other. And I know where they are, and Chris sent us a good breakdown of what's next door and across the street from us, so it's basically all commercial up there.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. David Clark will provide the tourism economic impact report on the state tourism department. Reverend David Edwards regarding redistricting, Type Thorn, redistricting, Barbara Bell, regarding the racial polarization study. Reggie Hill wants to continue his remarks concerning the legal department's impact on education, public safety, and use of taxpayer resources and redistricting. Ordinance is held over 64029. Rezone property located on the east side of Hillcrest Road, 320 of Ocean Road, from B2 to R1.
No issues. Yes, good to go.
This resolution is held over 58394, says cost for removal of Reeves Wheatland Group 1624.
Grass crews did come out and cut several roads throughout my district, and, you know, although they are still behind, I think, you know, we can move forward with this item.
Resolution is held over 08444. Purchase order to KIG Vehicle Concepts for 3 Chevrolet Tahoes. 08445. Move purchase order to Divers Ford for Ford F-150 crew cab pickup truck. 08446. Move purchase order to Shaw Contract Flooring Services for synthetic turf at Matthews Park Baseball Field. 08447, approved purchase order to Musico Sports Lighting for repairs to damaged field lighting at Mellow Barn Park. 08448, approved purchase order to Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems for 30 concrete light pole foundations. 08449, approved purchase order to Blue Planet ABL for spotlights and lamps for the same theater. 09450, approved transfer of funds from the general fund to capital improvements fund be used for resilience assessment and plan. 31.
I did have a question. This is here, Jim. Right, there was a reallocation, one of them was right of way, repairs or something to that effect. Chrissy, you pull it up.
That's a different transfer. I think you're talking a different transfer, not this 450.
This is resilience.
This is the,
Yes, that's correct.
the resiliency assessment?
Yes,
Oh,
from accounts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to this account. One of those accounts was right of way repairs or something to that effect.
I'll have to go
So
back.
I'm curious what that right of way repair bucket was set aside for.
Not a specific location. Generally, those aren't specific locations. They're just, you know, buckets for those types of repairs. And it wasn't gonna be spent at the rate. That's where we, you know, are trying to, you know, garner some of that, so. I can go through it.
Give me just a second. Right of way and land disturbance salaries.
Salaries?
Yes, right of way and land disturbance
So,
salaries.
okay, so that's for the individuals in that department. That we have vacant positions and those that for now.
Attrition savings.
9 months attrition savings that we're able to garner and use towards that. Yeah,
Are those the same savings that we talked about earlier that we're gonna use to, increase the police and fire salaries?
No.
Right.
Are those coming from other salary positions of the budget that we're not using?
correct. That we just haven't been able to fill. It's just, I mean, to put it in perspective, in Public Works alone, we do our very best to project into our budget when we think we'll be able to fill vacancies, and we budget accordingly. So for example, if we go into the beginning of the year and we think, we have 50 known vacancies, we generally don't budget the full salary for the year. We budget 9 months of the salary for the year in our budget. So when you're getting it, we're projecting that once the budget's approved, it's gonna take us a couple months to find people and fill those positions. So we're not even budgeting for the full year. But if it takes us 6 or 9 months to get the person, well, there's 6 months of salary savings in there that we didn't even, that we're garnering. So we're trying to still use it smartly. In this case, we pulled together a couple sources to pay for that resiliency assessment.
Well, I guess the next question to ask, are we advertising for those positions?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Where personnel board?
Yes, all of them.
So we're not doing away with those positions. It's
No.
just a savings, a cost
Correct.
savings. We're not doing something.
Anything else from the council? Madam Clerk?
31451, update the ARP action plan to include redevelopment for affordable housing.
We'll hold it off for another week, correct? And we have a committee meeting, Councilman?
Yes, we have a committee meeting next Tuesday, right after Councilman Reynolds' meeting.
So we need to hold it off for another 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to live.
If you guys don't know by now, I'm pretty sure through the public, there is a public meeting Wednesday night at 6 o'clock at the Innovative Portal on St. Louis Street. If you all like to attend, it'll be done by the developer. I'm pretty sure there they'll answer quite a few questions that are coming from the public that may be some of the same questions y'all might have. Everybody's invited from all districts.
2 weeks. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance is being introduced, 06030, ordinance to amend chapter 6 of the Mobile City Code, ambulances and other relevant transportation. 64031 is the rezoning on Hillcrest Road. Consent resolutions being introduced, 31454, authorize a grant application to the Department of Justice for the fiscal year 2022 Office of Justice Programs Community-Based Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative, 1.5 million, no local match. 31455, authorize a grant application to the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency for the fiscal year 2022 State Homeland Security Program, $1,046,846, no local match. 31456, authorize a grant application to the National Endowment for Humanities for funding to support digitalization efforts by the Mobile Historic Development Commission, $30,000. 37457, 458, and 459 are recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer table wine off-premises only license to In and Out on Spring Hill Avenue for special events retail license for the Prince Tribute Celebration in Cooper Riverside Park, and for issuance of a retail beer table wine off-premises only license to Brother Mart on Pleasant Valley Road.
To the ABC board, which, trying to see who is this for. It says recommend approval to the ABC board for issuance of a special license for Prince Tribute. Who's providing the, lit? It doesn't say lit here. It doesn't say here.
It does on the resolution.
It's, Lit Cigar Lounge.
You okay, Councilman?
Yeah.
Madam Clerk?
40, 460, and 461 are declaring the structures on Halls Mill Road and Kentucky Street public nuisances in Oregon demolished. 58, 462, authorize removal of weeds, weed 16, 27. 60, 463, 464, 465, 466, 467, determine appropriations to Ariel W. Holloway Elementary School, Dana Ford Foundation, Spencer West Lawn Elementary School, Azalea City, CDC, and Universal Youth Foundation serving public purpose and approving payments. 6474, approval board special bonus to the procurement department employee of the month. Resolutions being introduced, 01468, authorize assignment and assumption agreements between the city, Merchants Alabama LLC, and Lineage Logistics. 09469, authorize transfer of funds from general fund surplus to capital improvements fund for the Mobile County Soccer Complex, $5 million. 09470, authorize transfer of funds from general fund to capital improvements fund, various capital projects, $11,350,000.
Mr. Yeah, I want to go back to 469. We had a discussion about this, and my understanding was that the $5 million was going to go to the aquatic center, and this has it split up. Is this a lump sum that is able to go to the discretion of whoever the corporation is overseeing this, or is it specifically, once we make that allocation, the way it's written, does it have to be split between the two?
Our recommendation would be that you spend like $2 million on soccer and $3 million on aquatics. And you do that after you move the money. We'd do a memorandum of understanding, with the county. But the conversations that we've had with Commissioner Hudson, that seemed to be agreeable to her. But obviously, if you have a feeling that 3 ought to go to soccer and 2 to aquatics, that's to be worked out.
The discussion when they came to talk to us was, my understanding, and I may be wrong, I thought all 5 was going to the aquatic center, is what was discussed when they presented that to us.
Yeah, you're correct. In the meeting, that's what was discussed in the meeting, but I'm not sure if,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me see what I can find out between this and the other meeting, in a council meeting.
Well, this is gonna be like, okay.
That's laid over for a week.
Yeah.
I got some questions.
You got a comment, Dave?
What's the total cost of the improvements to the soccer complex that this $2 million would go towards, and the total cost of the aquatics?
I'll have to get those figures for you, but I'll be glad to call Commissioner Hudson. I think this is phase 2 of the build out, and so I'll have to find out. I don't know what the total, when they completely finish it, but I'll try to separate phase 2 from the aquatic center. And however we allocate that money, it really doesn't matter, in my understanding, because some of it could go to the soccer complex, all of it could go to the aquatic center, but when we talked to Commissioner Hudson, she had asked that we provide that cash back in that way, that manner.
As long as there's flexibility, I'm okay with that, but if it's based on how we provide it, and there is no flexibility, then that would need to be answered. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so another thing we ought to all keep in mind is that the soccer part of it is building out right now. I mean, you can build a soccer field, let's just say for $1.5 million or whatever the amount might be. They've got to raise that additional money for the aquatic center, and it's not, kind of a done deal yet, and you can't build a third of the aquatic center, and you got to have all the money allocated to be able to do that. So it may take them just a little longer, but she really needs to answer that question. But from the conversations that we've been having, our thought all along was that it was going to be divided between the 2.
Yeah, that's not what I heard.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
That's why I want to get some
Yeah.
clarification.
Right.
Thanks.
Councilman Dave?
I'd just like to ask that, I can't recall whether whether the city of Mobile made a contribution to the phase 1 of what's happening out there.
I don't think so.
I don't recall us doing.
That's right.
The only thing that we've done in that area is that we've let a contract along the road leading into it to remove some of the trees that were between the right-of-way and the fence.
About 65,000.
Yeah, and it was insignificant compared to what the cost of the complex is. We'll find
So
out.
If you could just give me some information on what phase one was, total cost of phase one, total cost of phase two, soccer and pool, our aquatic center, so I can see, I just want to get an idea of the relative, this $5 million relative to the total that's being spent.
Anyone else? Councilman Rowland? Good.
It's first read, so I'll reserve comment for the following week. But I will say, I'm excited about this opportunity. This area of our city is a growing area, and it's becoming more and more attractive day by day. You see all these, I can't tell you how many meetings I've had with folks trying to come and put money into this area because it's sort of a hot spot for tourism and everything else, and this place is part of that. So, but I'll reserve comment on the $5 million next week, unless you'd like to add something, Mr. President.
Madam Clerk?
21471, authorized contract with Geosyntex for design and engineering services for the redevelopment of stormwater infrastructure in Langham Park. 21472, authorized contract with Johnson Controls for server replacement at Mobile, Alabama Cruise Terminal, $47,105.
Madam Clerk, maybe you did read the 471. Okay, sorry. My comments are on that. As I'm looking at the list of the general fund surplus allocation, one of the columns is description, and it has, it says like the design phase, media improvements, so on and so forth. Am I reading this correct to say that the amount of money allocated for any one item, let's just say animal shelter, for example, $1.5 million could be reallocated for it, and then the description says design phase. Does that mean we're gonna spend $1.5 million
No,
for
sir.
design, or we're expecting the total project cost to be $1.5 million, or just this is a portion of what the total cost will be?
It's a portion of what the total cost, if you look at the resolution, it doesn't say design, we provided that on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
That way, once you put that money into the capital project, then once we finish design and figure out what that actual cost is gonna be, then we would supplement whatever the remaining balance is to complete the project.
I mean, the design's gonna be expensive. We don't know if it's gonna be the, 700,000, $1 million, or what, we're not sure yet. But we know that'd be safe to cover it, and whatever's left in there, we'll go towards construction when we get to that point.
Okay, and so total cost amounts, we really don't have even a general idea.
Well, maybe we do.
General could be anywhere between probably 7 and 15. I mean, it's $1 million. I mean, we just don't, it depends on the size, scope, and the complexity on what we do in it. But we've heard from other folks that around a $10 million number plus could be realistic for that facility.
Okay, and then my other question is, I'm familiar with most of these projects with the exception of fishing pier. Where's that going?
That's part of the design and selection of the area. That's actually a District 3 question. But,
Right now, we're looking possibly at McNally Park area is an area to do that. But we're not 100% sure. But we know we need one down in that area. We're trying to pinpoint, and we'll get with a consultant to help us fine tune that, to do that here.
So, Councilman, we need to find an area that has suitable depth, water depth for fishing and access.
If you don't want to, I got a great spot for it.
Well, I'm District 4, and it sounds like I've been part of much of the consideration so far.
So, actually, it may not actually be a pier. It may be a jetty that you could, because of the challenge with keeping piers intact. We've got a jetty out at McNally Park, and you may extend that, but that's part of the research of what we are doing. We just refer to it as a fishing pier.
idea is to access the bay.
Yeah, out into the bay.
To get the depth, we need to dredge it because it's too shallow. You can almost walk it. 400 yards. But
Chief of Staff Barber, I think back in the Mike Dow days, Clint Johnson days, they did a pier study or they did some drawings. Something was done. Is it possible that someone tries to see, I can't remember exactly what was done, but something was done. It was drawings or something that came up to a big number. But yes, go back now that point. Yeah.
We'll have them take a look at that. To the mayor's point, I know that there was some discussion by engineering of building a resilient type platform for fishing over the top of the jetties so that it would support that type of structure, you know.
I do have one other comment. I'm sure you all have given it consideration, but there's quite a few projects here that could total a whopper of a bill to get them done. I guess the idea would be to use surplus money, or grant funds, or whatever else to get them done, but in the event that we can't get some of these things done, you know, I guess is our focus narrow enough where we can actually get these things done financially?
Yes, sir.
That we won't allocate money to them, get a design or whatever, and then turns out that the 15 million upside of the animal shelter turns into 30, and we just have to take it off the table.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, we do not know how you would completely fund every one of these projects yet. I mean, you would wade through that surplus, so once you get the more accurate numbers of what the cost is gonna be, we'll be at another decision, another fork in the road, to decide which ones can we do and how will we pay for it.
The other piece.
But without doing the pre-design and without doing the things that we're talking about, all you're doing is throwing something against the wall. And from the time constraint, you know, of how long it would take to ever know that, you know, it's kind of what we're up against.
The other piece I'll just say is, we found ourselves multiple times in a situation where there's been granting funding opportunities available, and we haven't had sufficient information or data or designs to even apply. And so then what happens is we miss the opportunity because we don't have sufficient material to put forward, or we put in a request that's not even close to accurate, and then we wind up struggling on the back end because we had a bad estimate on a cost or concept. So every bit of money we put in, I know sometimes people think, oh, well, these designs will sit there, they'll never get used. We're not gonna pick ones that we don't intend to do at some point in the very near future, and or have an opportunity to get our money or other people's money to be able to go do that work. And that's the first step in getting that, is getting that design done. So you're right, on several of these, 3 or 4 of these are designs that'll inform and help us determine how much we need to allocate for the full construction.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I wasn't right until we asked, but since I went, the St. Louis Street, $3 million for innovative, what are we getting at?
That's actually that was actually a culvert that we are replacing that was not in the original scope of work. It's a major drainage culvert that goes through there. That's just the title of the project. The Restore project was called Innovating St. Louis Street. That's just the Restore funding name.
That's right.
But that's a $3 million unanticipated construction cost that we now know we have to repair.
So, Jim, was it $6 million that of Restore money allocated toward?
I think, is that right, huh? 9 million.
So, when projections were being made several years ago about the cost of like rebuilding St. Louis Street, a $9 million, is the 9 the total, or is that?
9 was the restore
Okay.
portion.
Anyway, so we recognized once we identified the street and they started doing preliminary engineering, they discovered a culvert that had not been in the scope of the work. And so that's why the additional $3 million is being allocated there, because we have a federal project, a lot like the Tiger Grant, that we've taken federal dollars for, and if we take those federal dollars, we've got to finish the project. And to do the project, we've got to now add that culvert in, and that's why there's such a big number.
Where's the culvert?
It's on the, I guess that'd be the western edge. Nick, can you tell them specifically where that's at?
It's on the western edge, tying into Washington I can't hear you. The western end of the project, closer to Broad Street, kind of into Washington Avenue there.
Was it-
6 federal.
was it live?
3, and then-
Pardon me?
Was it live?
Yeah, it's live.
It is, it is active.
It's a live active culvert.
It's, the problem is, we went in and did, in the pre-design, we went and did investigation of all these culverts, and that one is on the verge of failure, and it wasn't originally planned to be replaced. So when we went in and did the cameras through it all, you can see the rebar, exposed rebar through it, so we said, we're not gonna go spend $6 or $9 million and then not replace this and have to come in 4 years later, 5 years later, and tear it up to put it back in, so this is a unanticipated, cost.
So what are the drawings for that project gonna be complete?
Real soon, Jen,
You're in 60% design plans.
yeah, 60%, just about a 60%.
She said 60% of design and not 60% of construction.
Correct.
CD or DD?
CD,
So let me correct, it's $6 million is what we got from Restore, and $3 million is what we've allocated because of this culvert.
that's right,
This is an additional $3 million?
that's right.
Yes,
And we're taking it from the surplus?
That's right.
yes.
What area is, what area is the culvert a part of the drainage system of? In other words, the water's coming from where through this culvert and going to where?
Next, go.
Think about downtown just basically being almost entirely flat, and so the surrounding streets are draining towards it, and it's kind of like a trunk line down there. And so, if you looked at like underneath Broad Street, now the project that's under construction, the major culvert underneath there, real big, this culvert's got water coming to it, water's coming down Spring Hill Avenue, it's just flat. So almost every street in downtown has drainage underneath it of some size or another, but this is primarily down the road.
Nick, how big, that one's about 3 or 4 feet square?
Yeah, I think it's a 2 by 4 maybe. So it's shallow, but it's it's shallow, but it's there. A lot of these things were cast in place. I mean, they were built there. And what we're seeing in a lot of them, they've been in the ground for 80 or 100 years. The top layer and the walls, the steel that's in it has started decaying and rusting. And when it rusts, it pops the concrete and makes the culvert unstable.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the question was, the way I understood it is, what's feeding it? Is it all downtown feeding this one on Washington Avenue? And then where's the outfall?
Yeah, not all of downtown. I'd have to show you on the
Is
map.
Government Street feeding it in front of the library?
No. It's primarily gonna be St. Louis Street and the side streets, coming to it.
Vicinity Washington in that area.
And the only reason why I asked when I heard it, for umpteen million years, right in front of the library at, can't see his name in the street, but right in front of the library at Popeyes, and it floods there. And it's, for years, nobody could tell us why it flooded there. So if this is the source, but it's not the source. So, it really didn't help us find the answer to that question yet. But if, it floods there naturally, and we don't know what keeps the water from,
We've got some in the project that Jen's administering. They took some excellent pictures right there at the intersection of Broad and Government, and it shows you the live oak trees and the roots and what the root systems look like. The likely problem there, or just about anywhere along those corridors, there's gonna be tree roots. It's either gonna be tree roots or utilities that might have compromised the pipes. But the tree roots, love the oak trees, but they go to that source of water and they fill up the pipes and,
well, there are new techniques when we do these, that we can raise the sidewalks and use back and direct it. But I'm fine with that. I don't want to hold up everybody talking about culverts. I get excited about stuff like that, when everybody else does.
thanks you.
Thanks.
Well, we're below, the problem is that our outfall is below the rising mean. So it's hard rain, water can.
Call for public hearings, 41473, call for public hearings to consider approval of a certificate of occupancy and necessity to Carekeepers Healthcare to operate a sedan service scheduled June 7th. Announcements.
Council. Dave?
Yesterday, we had a pretty good meeting with, with the board, the Jack Chess, and Casey, with Chippewa Lakes on the African Town overlay, I think we have a footprint of a map that all the parties can live with. Hopefully, well, Bruce, you want to talk about it, since you're here, I'd love to talk about it, come on.
Yeah,
We had a good day yesterday, and I think we're at a point where we can, get something on the agenda this Thursday.
Yeah, we should be able to. We basically expanded the historic district, calling it a safe zone, and it expands out further than just the historic district, which was only the actual housing acreage that was identified by the National Historic Preservation survey that they did years ago. We're, from a port standpoint, from the standpoint of the industry that's represented by Keep Mobile Growing, we're satisfied with that. We're trying to make the time frame to get it done. The map's floating around here. I'm trying to find Mr. Rosler this afternoon or whenever I can find him to show the executive side what that is. And you've got a rough hand-drawn copy of it that we're working off of. So aside from unexpected problems with that from anybody who wasn't at the meeting yesterday, we think we should be good to go for next Tuesday's agenda.
Just an update, pretty good day yesterday, I think, all fun. Chris? Bruce?
Chris?
Yes.
Is this the what Jared, variety of what Jared had come up with?
Depends on when he gave it to you.
It is
This
changed a
was-
lot, Chris.
This was yesterday afternoon.
Also,
Send me a copy.
Where,
I was hoping to have the maps today to send to everybody, Doug Anderson, council, but somehow or another, the maps didn't get printed yesterday, or when I was told last night, we're still waiting on the maps. So once we get that, there's some language that has to be inserted between, I think, Bruce and Casey, correct?
yeah, and Jared too, but
Right.
it basically would mimic a downscale version of what the original NEJAC thing looked like, but without all add-ons in it, and that would become a part of the UEC. So, I mean, when I leave here, that's what I'm going back to work on. But the maps, the only maps we have now in production are the hand-drawn ones from yesterday, and I'm having those reproduced. We're trying to, see if we can figure out a way to get the GIS to actually do this, so it'd be more helpful. But we at least have those hand-drawn ones. As soon as we can get those, I mean, they're a marker on a real map, so you can see what the boundaries of the safety zone are. So,
Hopefully the language will be ready today, send out to y'all, latest, hopefully it's gonna have the latest on them. And I'll try to get on the agenda Thursday.
Mr. Dave and Mr. Jones.
Well, I would just like to commend Councilman Carroll and Bruce and BJAC people and the Chess people and Keep Moving Growing. Everybody that's been involved in this, I got my fingers crossed, but I'd like to commend everybody that's been involved in this effort to resolve this. And as Councilman Richardson used to say, give hope a chance.
Thank you. We're there.
That's comments. Thanks to everybody for working this. It's absolutely key to keeping things going.
Anything else from the council?
Yeah,
Ms. Gregory?
I agree with everything that's been said. He also said something like crying, the only one crying in the wilderness or something like that as well. Voice crying in the wilderness. So Chris, I know last week we talked timing a little bit. So I think from the date that you gave us last week, this probably would put it off a couple of weeks. So maybe the end of the month, we could be looking at maybe voting. if the amendment is ready for Africatown next week, and we can get that approved, and then go through the advertising period.
Yeah, you need, probably, yeah, it'd be end of the month. Right around in there. I don't know the
That's
exact
next
date.
week.
Yeah, that's next week.
Whoa. Say it again?
They're talking, she's asking about voting on the whole.
Oh, you just said it in there.
Yeah, I'm just looking at timing for advertising and all that, when we could see it on the agenda to vote. Probably, I was looking at the dates, Lisa, I can't remember, it's June 28th, is that a Tuesday, somewhere in that vicinity. Yeah, just depends on how long all the
I
advertising
think that
takes.
it might fall on that, but I can check.
But we could vote on this amendment next week.
Yeah,
We'd have to take it up.
So if you got the amendment ready, it's agreeable, vote on that, and then, do a call for public hearing, and also hold the as amended UDC over to whatever that date is, 28th or whatever, and then the whole thing will go happen then.
Anything else on the council? Chief?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think it's a little premature to declare victory. I talked to Bruce McGowan, Jim Rossler, Shayla Biko, and all last night. The administration has not seen the current map that Mr. Carroll is referring to. And so I've asked McGowan to get that to me so that we could look at it at GIS. Be mindful that we need to be protective of property owners that may not have been at that meeting and did not agree to this overlay, if there's any downzoning. So we want to make sure there's some protection there for other property owners. But so far, from what I'm hearing, it was good. We just haven't seen it. But we'll be glad to work with Mr. Carroll, Jared, Bruce to make sure we do it right.
Anything else? If not, we'll see each other at 10:30.